Penn State plays Georgia Tech. Penn State, of course, coming off of their huge win over Ohio State, where they came back from an 18-point deficit. Kanye Clary really led that charge. Wahab really made a big effort in that game as well. So we'll see if they can get the same thing to happen. Ace Baldwin's just been solid all season long. I don't know if I've seen a bad game from him. His production has dipped here and there, but I wouldn't even say those were bad games. He just seems to do whatever Penn State needs each game. I'm still trying to find the identity for this Penn State team. Are they a defensive team? Are they, a front court team, a back court team? I don't know if they really have that identity yet, but they always seem to do, at least in their wins, they always seem to do what they need. And in those losses, it's been where they've kind of not really done what's needed to happen. So it's definitely interesting to see. But Anthony, I'm curious your thoughts on this Penn State Georgia Tech game.
Yeah, so prior to the game against Ohio State, Penn State looked like a team that was lost, right? They were on a 5-game skid. They were not shooting well. They're still not shooting great, but they get hot when they need to. What they do, and what Penn State teams have been doing the last 5 years, is they turn over their opponents really well. So they're not necessarily always going to play sound defense, but they are going to kind of force the game to get a little helter skelter. I don't think either of these teams, Penn State or Georgia Tech, is particularly great at shooting from deep. I think both are sub 275 shooting percentage wise. So it's not. I don't see this being a barn burner of a game. I think when you have more scoring type guards like Kanye Clary and Ace Baldwin, they've really been doing more of their damage inside. I think that will play well for Penn State. I think they'll have a little bit more offensive mindedness with that. I think Wahab can be a force. He showed that he can be a force at times. It's a matter of consistency for him. And I think on Georgia Tech's side, they have a lot of, kind of the wing rangy forward, 6'5" to 6'7" guys. They have a bunch of them. And they really only have one legitimate big guy option. He didn't start playing at the beginning of the year, Bay Ndongo, but he's, kind of come onto the scene of late. He had a huge game against Duke. Georgia Tech had a big upset against Duke, and he went off in that one. Both sides of the ball, I think he's a defensive guy that can contain a guy like Wahab. I think with all that in mind, though, I still like Penn State in this one, in a battle of two teams that I think are still trying to find themselves. They have some big wins, but they also have some, concerning qualities to them too. So I like Penn State in this one.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I'll probably go with Penn State in this one as well. I do think that Penn State is going to need to really improve their rebounding to win in this one. Georgia Tech gets nearly 15 offensive rebounds a game. That's huge. And I was just looking to refresh myself to see if there's any spectacular offensive rebounding on this team, and there's nobody who really stands out as great. I mean, Ndongo, he averages 2.6 per game, so that's impressive, but they have 3 guys who average 2 or more per game. So it's just kind of a collective team effort to get on the offensive glass. And Penn State's not been great on defensive rebounding this season. They've only got 22.5 per game this year. So they're really going to need to lock down, keep Georgia Tech off the glass if they want to make those defensive possessions count. Because at the end of the day, Penn State, they're not a terrible defensive team. I think they're actually probably a better defensive team than they are offensive team. But they really need to make those possessions count where they get stops. Burke, what are some of your thoughts on this one?
Well, initial thought is this really does deflate the meaning of the bright lights of Madison Square Garden a bit. This is an odd game to be played there. An odd game, is this Madison Square Garden's first appearance on BTN? It has to be.
Probably.
It has to be. Well, yeah, it's an odd matchup for that environment. But Georgia Tech, they have some very respectable wins. They have some very, very respectable wins, including a tough Mississippi State team, a probably too soft to do something real in March Duke team. But they are the Miles Kelly show. And when he's locked in, they will perform well. When he's not, they just don't. And Penn State showed some real grit in that Ohio State game. They did, fighting back like that. But that's largely been absent throughout the whole season for them. But I think this game is due to just their breadth of production, I think they have the advantage over Georgia Tech. Like just being a bit more stable for the Nittany Lions, like Kanye Clary has been producing extremely well on the season. And I like the supporting cast he has in Ace Baldwin Jr. and Qudus Wahab more than I like Miles Kelly's in Kawasi Reeves Jr. and freshman forward Bay Ndongo.
Ndongo, yeah, that's one that you have to practice a few times.
Yeah.
All these names, I there's too many names I have to practice. Like Sturdivant. I'm probably saying that wrong, but I saw that one earlier and I was like, I'm not putting that one on the bottom ticker down there because it's too long. I'll be able to fit like points per game, and that's it. Yeah, no, Kelly is really their offense that makes them work. I mean, 17 points per game. When I was looking at this game and kind of just looking at some of the stats, I've watched Georgia Tech a little bit this year, but not extensively. I would have expected their assists per game to be lower, but they're getting 13 assists per game. That's not good, but that's not bad either. That's okay. And that's 4 more assists per game, or no, 2 more assists per game than Penn State's getting at 10.8 assists per game. So they're actually sharing the ball better than Penn State is, which kind of surprised me just by watching. But yeah, Penn State, they're definitely going to have to play some solid defense, make those kind of things happen in order to win this game. And they're going to have to do a better job of shooting the 3 ball. They take 24 3-pointers a game, and they're only shooting 31%. So if you're going to take that many 3-pointers a game, you need to start hitting more than just 31%. Need to probably be up at least above 35 to really make those threats happen and be good enough to beat some of these good teams that can come up and win, like Georgia Tech. So, but you mentioned the schedule, Burke. I do like their wins over Duke and Mississippi State, but a loss to Cincinnati, a loss to UMass Lowell, at Georgia, a loss there. Some of those are just puzzling. So we'll see what kind of Georgia Tech team we get in this one. You have any more thoughts on this one, Anthony?
No, I think it's it'll be interesting to see how, Georgia Tech's kind of a team that's morphed a little bit over the course of the season, with Ndongo kind of coming on as of late. But I think you're right. If they don't get anything from their supporting cast and their usual starter isn't up to his, who's their main guard. I think if he's not up to the task, then I think it's going to be it could be a really long day for them. Yeah. So I think in general, this is going to favor Penn State. And also, something East Coast, it's Madison Square Garden. It's not Penn State, but they're closer somewhat geographically. So maybe they'll have more fans in New York. I don't know. I'm always a little salty about MSG because I think Michigan State is historic. I think they're 4-14 or something crazy like that all time at Madison Square Garden under Izzo. They're just horrendously bad there. I never like watching games there. I always feel like they're ugly.
Well, you guys should try playing Georgia Tech there. It sounds like they're letting Georgia Tech play there now.
Thanks for listening to the Big Ten Huddle. Please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.